party.
Good. I'm glad to get you all real hyped.
All right, well, I am Ash. I am disabled, and I'm very excited to be here. This is something I care deeply about, and I'm really excited to talk to you all about all of this. So if you guys maybe want to start and tell us a little bit about yourself, and give us a little bit of you.
Do you want to share my name?
Okay. Are we starting with Hank?
Oh, sorry.
You guys can go in whatever order you feel like.
Sure. You pointed at me. That's my cue.
I was making weird eye contact.
I'm Hank Green. I started making videos in 2007. I'm still going. And thanks. We make a lot of educational stuff and also just like sometimes whatever we feel like. Me and my brother together. In 2004, I think I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. I was in school at the time, which is perfect for pre-Obamacare because then you are on school health insurance that you can't keep after you graduate, and then you have a pre-existing condition when you graduate from school. It would have been cheaper for me to never graduate. It's $1,400 a month for my pills. Now it's 10. Thanks, Obama. And yeah, genuine thanks, Obama. Yeah, so that's. Did I say I have ulcerative colitis, which is like an autoimmune disease where my immune system thinks my colon is bad, and my colon hates that.
Hey guys, I'm Zach Kornfeld. I'm in a group called The Try Guys. You don't know, you can probably guess, we try stuff. But it's doing stuff related to people's passions and identities, often involves some zany antics. I've been living with chronic pain for about 10 years. I got a diagnosis 2 years ago of something called ankylosing spondylitis. I'm realizing I'm like hunching over, and this is the worst this is the one panel that I don't have to hunch over, because it's about pain. It's a inflammatory disease where my body thinks that ligaments are bad, and then it adds more bone. I'm on medicine that helps that, but have some inflammation pain, a lot of basically chronic back and joint pain. It's broadly in the arthritis family. I'm getting some nods. We have some ankylosing homies. Hey, how's it going? So yeah, am I the newest, the most recently diagnosed on here? 2 years ago? Oh, right. Okay, one up and well in that. Then you go. No, I'm done. I'm finished. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stevie Bobby. I currently make lesbian sex 101 videos. Just dating and relationship stuff. But when I first started out, I was making technology videos because I couldn't leave my bed, and I didn't know what was wrong with me, and I was in and out of emergency rooms. This was like 8 years ago. And someone offered me $25 a video to talk about technology, and I was like, what? Okay, I can fake it. So I started doing that. And then I just decided I need to pretend like I'm not sick, obviously, because that's not cool to be sick. So whatever, I'm interested in continuing to make money. And then I made a bunch of disability YouTuber friends, including Annie, and I was like, oh shit, I can talk about this, and I should talk about this. So then I started talking about it, which led me to actually get a diagnosis, because doctors kept telling me it was depression my whole life. And I finally got diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, type 3. I got diagnosed in October, so I'm still learning how to talk about why my body is trying to destroy itself all the time. And yeah, I haven't super incorporated it into my content yet, but I'm just slowly doing it. But I'm being taught by other wonderful EDSers.
Okay, my name's Annie Segarra, and I have a channel called Annie Elaney, and it's always been a place where I kind of just share personal stories and observations, and it leads to mostly being topics related to LGBT issues and disability issues, and disability came about within the past like 5 years, really, for me, because EDS is genetic. We both have the same condition. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, also EDS, is something that you have like since you're born, but it can be really dormant throughout the beginning of your life, and then as you get older, it's a degenerative condition, so your health stability starts to decline, and then you can lose like certain abilities, like your ability to stand and walk gets shorter and things like that. So I just explain what it is, I guess. It's a connective tissue disorder, and it means that your body is creating defective collagen. Collagen is the glue that holds our bodies together. So essentially, if like the typical human body is held together by like cement, people with EDS, their bodies are held together with like jelly. So our joints are easily like detached from each other, and that's why like walking can be very risky. You risk like severe injury whenever you're doing anything exertive. And it affects literally everything. It can affect your senses, your sight, your hearing, your intestines, your heart, your lungs, your muscles, joints, so it basically, and your blood vessels, which is also a big impact. And I was undiagnosed for the majority of my life until I had to essentially self-diagnose via research. And fortunately, after like 3 years of self-advocacy and being gaslit by my doctors into thinking that I was crazy or lying or looking for attention, etc., I finally, when I was 26, wow, and I'm 28, so like 2 years ago, got diagnosed with EDS. So now I talk about it a lot.
Cool. Well, we have like a lot of like late in the game diagnoses.
Thought I was special. I'm not.
I mean, gotta love healthcare, am I right? Also, I just wanted to say for you guys out there, we do have a hashtag. It's hashtag listen Vidcon19, and if we don't get to your questions during the panel, some of us might be interested in answering them over on Twitter. So yeah, you can kind of like say your thoughts there, and I know I was talking to Annie about this earlier. It's just it's really cool to keep the conversation going, because I don't think there's enough conversation about it. So if you feel like talking to us on Twitter about it, that's the hashtag.
You all have beautiful headshots, by the way. I look like a derp up there.
You just look like really excited about
I'm so
something.
happy to be here. Looking at that 10, I'm like, wow.
I don't look anything like mine, I realized. Like, later I was like, oh, it's completely different.
I hope I don't look like mine.
So I wanted to start out, I know all of us, and probably a lot of people in the audience, experience the invisible illness. And it's nearly impossible to put into words what you're feeling on the inside to your friends and your colleagues and even doctors to like feel understood. So can you talk a little bit about your experience living with something that affects so much of your everyday life that the people around you can't see or understand?
I went first last time.
My brain is kind of split in half with like how to respond to that question, because the first instinct I have is like to try and communicate what my body feels like. And I always just have to do like metaphors or comparisons. Like walking for me feels like walking with rocks inside my shoes. So it's painful but tolerable for like a couple minutes at a time. And outside of that, I need to use a wheelchair because the pain is too much. And like, different things like that, like trying to describe like brain fog and like what happens when we have cognitive failures, when our brains shut down, or when like we're standing for too long and like the blood rushes down to our feet because of our weak blood vessels, and then we have to fight fainting spells or be horizontal for a long period of time. So that's like my first instinct, is to try to communicate. Like, this is what I'm experiencing all the time. I'm constantly trying to navigate how to exist in the world while being in constant, non-stop pain, and constantly worrying about like how could I possibly injure myself while still trying to have a good time, while still trying to like live a joyful life. But like then the other way to answer your to like find that bravery inside of you to be like, hold on, wait, I need a break, and like communicate like your physical experience in this world and in this situation is so different from mine, and I have different needs that you might forget because you think that I look fine, which happens so much.
Yeah, I often fall into not actually saying anything until I've been thinking about it again and again, and then when it comes out, I was like, I just need a second, please. And I'm sorry for exploding at you. I have been thinking about how hard this is. I definitely feel guilty a lot, which I'm trying to get over, but going to work and being exhausted, and then I come home and my girlfriend wants help, putting together, hanging the TV on, mounting the TV, and I'm like, this is hell for me right now. But telling you I just want to lay on the couch makes it kind of just seem like I want to be lazy right now, and I think I could do a better job at communicating that.
Right. I think that's the word that like everybody
yeah.
knows. Like, so you're just a lazy bug.
Tough too, because like my content, I started making before I had this, and a lot of the videos we do are very physical, and they're things that I like to do. I'm on tour right now, and our tour is very physical. It's exciting to me, but that stuff takes a huge toll, and so building out time for stretching and exercise and rest and recovery, and then really a lot of it is admitting to myself, okay, I can't do this, and I shouldn't do this, because it means there's a lot more stuff I'm not going to be able to do.
Yeah, I struggle more with thinking that I'm being lazy, like blaming myself for it, than I do with people like thinking that I'm being lazy, and being like, even like not being productive, and even if I know the whole time I'm not being productive, but it's because I'm sick and because I'm like having a flare, that like even at the end of it, I forget that that's what the problem was. And then I'm like, why didn't I do anything? Like, it's all subconscious. Like my brain is like attacking me for being like, why were you such a sloth this week? And it's like, I don't know, because I was like in pain the whole time. And like literally, you can't do all your work on the toilet.
Your best thinking you can do there.
Yeah, I kind of like also have the issue with like feeling lazy or whatever. But I kind of at first I built it into my personality. I was like, oh yeah, I'm like the lazy girl. I'm not gonna go hiking. That sounds like so like not fun for me. And I kind of just like embraced it, and then I don't know. But like my therapist says that's not healthy. So. And then yeah, I think that being undiagnosed for so long, I was just like, this is my only option. Like, I can only just make jokes and then be demanding and assertive. But yeah, I like have a bunch of rules if I'm gonna go to something. If someone wants me to go to their engagement party, or if they want me to go out, I'm like, okay, is there comfy seating? How much space is there from where the Uber's dropping me off to where I walk in? And is the music too loud so I won't be able to hear you? Because I also have hard hearing. And then, I don't know, when I talk to other people with chronic illness and disability, they kind of seem to struggle a little bit with that. But I think that, I don't know, I guess because I developed that like lazy girl persona or whatever for
Really set yourself up.
For so many years, I'm just like, yeah, I don't feel like I'm being a bitch if I'm like, no, I'm not gonna go to your engagement party because it's not comfortable. Fuck off.
You also like made it kind of like a status symbol for yourself. I remember you telling me a story about like going to like a club or something or a party space, and like there wasn't, or a bar, and like there not being any seating, so you led your group somewhere else where there would be seating. Yeah, it was more like this is not satisfactory for me. I'm gonna go. Like,
Yeah, I just pretend to be bougie. I'm like, this is not. Sorry.
I mean, that's gonna get, like, that's a big part of this conversation, though, like, feeling like you have the status in your group, or in, like, whether it's a group or whether it's, like, a medical situation, to actually, like, say, no, I need you to accommodate this for me. Much easier for me, as a boss, to say to my employees, I have to go to the bathroom and I'll be back in 45 minutes. Like, the meeting's over now, bye. It's very hard for an employee to say that to a boss, very easy for a boss to say that to an employee. And also, I think, like, in terms of having medical conversations, like, as a guy like, men are generally less likely to come into a doctor's office and be like, I have a problem. Like, if they have a problem, the doctor's like, well, yeah, because, like, men only come to the doctor when there's a real problem. And also, yeah, I know. And also, like, I think that there's a certain amount of just like, it's the patriarchy, man, where you have this kind of like, you have this tendency to believe high status looking people more than you have a tendency to believe other kinds of people. And like, I come in and I'm like, I have a master's degree and I know biochemistry and we can talk about collagen and tendons together, and like, I know all about the immune system. Let's talk about macrophages, bitch.
Casual conversation.
It's very much easier to be taken seriously when you're sort of on that, and it's just a status thing where like the doctor sees you as a legitimate, like you're not gonna lie because you're a white guy.
Yeah, my doctor for a year and a half wouldn't refer me to a rheumatologist because she said I needed to be in a healthy BMI. So I was too underweight, which is like usually not the story. It's usually the opposite of like, no, you need to lose weight. And I was like, so then I was like, okay, and then got to a healthy BMI, and then she was like, I'm sorry, what were your symptoms again? And I'm like, I've seen you for a year and a half, and I've told you 50 symptoms every single time. Like, I think I'm gonna die or something. Like, literally, they're so weird. Like, what is this? And she was like, oh yeah, I guess you've been a rheumatologist.
Oh my gosh.
So ridiculous.
Yeah, and like in that same vein, like healthy boundaries and being able to kind of like say your needs and kind of those like limitations. Do you have any kind of tips that you've learned in having to do that to kind of communicate your needs and your limitations without feeling guilty or lazy or kind of alienating yourself further from the people around you that could kind of be helpful to people who might be on the beginning of that journey?
I got advice from women of color who told me how to threaten my doctor. The only reason I got diagnosed was because they were like, this is how you threaten them. They were like, you have to say, you asked to see a geneticist 3 times and put it in my record that you denied me 3 times. And that's the only time she ever, and she didn't even respond, she just like sent me the recommendation. I was like, so yeah, I think talking to people that have intersection of marginalized identities, because they have the scoop on what to do, that's what got my diagnosis and ultimately like completely changed my life.
Totally. I'm curious, especially, having, different genders on this panel, kind of the experience of pushback and almost like gaslighting, especially in the medical process. I'm curious to know, like, because obviously, Stevie, you just talked about having like a lot of pushback from doctors, and I know that you did. Like, how is that different from you two? And also, kind of like, do you guys still experience that, like, the long-term effects of gaslighting? I know personally, like, I gaslight myself constantly.
What's gaslighting?
So,
Oh boy.
Sorry.
It's our current political system.
Does someone want to?
Who can do it?
I feel
So
like
essentially, it's people making you believe things that they haven't told you are real again and again, right?
Yeah, that's like over and over again, making you question your reality.
Yes.
By-
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, don't believe what you're feeling or seeing.
Or we didn't talk about that, or you said this last time, so I think you're getting better. Or,
Yeah.
So as an example, when I told someone that I was moderating this panel, they were like, why? What have you been diagnosed with? And I was like, right? Maybe I shouldn't be on this. I should absolutely not be doing this. And I got my first diagnosis when I was 10. So obviously, that's clearly incorrect. And so it's kind of like, and I think especially with invisible illness, a lot of people kind of like, well, you don't look sick. That's something that people say a lot. So
Yeah,
especially,
I'll tell you that I must be a really shitty white guy, because it also took me a long time.
They're like, no, not you.
I think I'm an especially weak-looking one, so they think they can step on me. Anyway, no, it was many years of, like, you psych yourself up, you write down all the symptoms, and then when you talk to the doctor, I think I did it to myself a lot, where I didn't know, like, it's like, what's your pain today from a scale of 1 to 10? Like, I don't know, based on, compared to what? It was there when I went to sleep, and it's here when I woke up, so I always say 6. That's always the answer. So my pain has always been a 6, and that my 6 today is much different than my 6 last year. But it was a long process of going to the doctor and, yeah, just like asking what we can do. And I was going to the chiropractor. Like, I got to the point where I was going to the chiropractor once a week just to like get that little hit of relief for like a day. and I wasn't. For me, the only reason I got a diagnosis is because the pain prevented me from sleeping, and I was so. It was months of really not sleeping at all, where I was just a shell of myself. And because I was such a shell of myself, I screamed at my doctor. Which maybe there's the privilege is that I was okay to do that. But I yelled and I said, I'm not leaving this office. There were more curses. But I'm not leaving this office until you give me someone to talk to, because you are not equipped to handle this, as you've proven from the last several years. And then, the most frustrating thing, I went to a rheumatologist and I explained my symptoms like under 3 minutes, and he goes, it could be this, or this. I think it's this. He was right. It was like, it was the easiest thing to diagnose if anyone was just fucking listening.
That's the name of the panel.
Yeah.
My process, I've been talking about EDS so much on our Vidcon, so like, excuse me if I repeat anything. I started to lose my ability to stand up for long periods when I was like 23. And I think partially culturally, in like a Latinx household, and also because like we didn't really have a lot of money, we very much have a philosophy of like, if you're not dying, you're not going to the doctor. We'll figure it out. Put some like vapor rub on it, some muscle rub on it, like wrap it around with some bandages, you're fine. And it'll heal itself or whatever. So I let my decline happen until I reached the point where I couldn't stand up for more than like 2 to 5 minutes at a time. And that's when I finally decided to see a doctor. And then I went through the process of like 3 years of doctors telling me nothing was wrong. That the first doctor I ever saw just said, you know what, you're probably just working too much, just put your feet up and like it'll be better next week. Because we live in a culture, a society that says the doctors are God and that they're always right, I was like, okay, we'll do that. And it didn't go away, and it just kept getting worse. And I already felt discouraged by the first doctor, so I was like, with the philosophy of like, just handle it yourself, just put on some muscle rubs, just put on some bandages, do what you gotta do. I went to the drugstore and I got myself a cane because I knew that I needed help to get around at this point when I only had a couple minutes at a time to be on my feet. And even like as I kept declining, I would keep seeing more doctors, and they would keep telling me nothing's wrong with you. Maybe you're mentally ill. Maybe you have depression. Maybe you have anxiety. And what was the other one? Oh, when I described my symptoms, they told me what you're describing to me is not possible. Is what they were saying.
That's what gaslighting is.
That's gaslighting. So it was like 3 years of that, which like really took a toll on my mental health, absolutely. Eventually, like after a series, like I got my leg operated on after a misdiagnosis, and that only made things worse. I went to a neurosurgeon because I was like, fine, at this point, I had the operation on my leg, and that left me using a wheelchair full time because I couldn't even, it wasn't about, when you put your foot on the ground, you're putting pressure on it, right? It wasn't even about pressure. I couldn't touch the floor, is how like open and damaged like the nerves were in my life, without feeling like horrendous, torturous, electrifying pain. So I couldn't even touch the floor for like half a year after my operation.
After the operation, you didn't.
Yeah, but I didn't eat
because they were making up the symptoms slowly that you were not eating.
Right. It was the worst. And so I was like, well, I'm using a wheelchair now. I've accepted that. I'm going to focus on my back pain. I was trying to see if I can relieve that, so at least I can get an office job. So when I did that, they put steroids in my back to like try to like, the pain relief. What they didn't know, because I was still undiagnosed, was that steroids break up collagen. So when it's already defective, when you're having jelly hold your bones together, and then you poke holes in the jelly, it left me horizontal for 10 days. I couldn't sit up with how bad the pain was, because I didn't have any glue holding my back together. So I just had to stay in bed for 10 days. When I told the neurosurgeon that, hips and he sees that my hips are dislocated. I'm essentially walking on dislocated hips, and says, this looks really traumatic, like if you were in a car accident or something. I was like, no, I'm not. And at this point, I'd already done my research. Like I said, I already had kind of self-diagnosed. It's like, I'm 99% sure I have EDS. I'm telling you and every other doctor that I've been seeing, you should test me for this. And you deny me the ability to test because you think I'm an idiot or something. Or that I'm crazy, or I'm making it up, or that what I'm describing is not possible, and I'm not intelligent enough to know what my body is doing. He then suggested to do an operation to fuse the joints in my hips. And that's when I had a freaking meltdown in the doctor's office. And like, you, like, fists on the table, are willing to risk me being horizontal for the rest of my life than to listen to me and test me for what I'm asking you to test me for. And freaked me out because it felt like a wall. It felt like where do I go from here when like this is the option that doctors are giving me? And it didn't work because that doctor wasn't gonna admit to my meltdown. Just kind of sat there and rolled their eyes at me. And by the grace of the universe, by the grace of God, a lady doctor happened to walk in as I was screaming at the doctor. What's going on here?
She's like, I'm here to save the day.
Here to save the day. And like, so she asked him, why is she crying? And he, again, like rolls his eyes and throws his arms up in the air. She thinks she has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And she didn't know what it was.
What an idiot.
Yeah. And then, like, she didn't know what it was, so she did a really quick Google search of it on her phone. Like, read the first like 2 lines, looked up at the projection of my dislocated hips on the screen, and was like, she could have this.
Good job. She does.
Yeah. And so finally, again, he was still a dick about it. Was like, fine, I'll send her to a geneticist. And then, like, I think it still took another good year of like waiting to see the geneticist, and then waiting to take a blood test, and then waiting for the blood test results to come. And then, lo and behold, there was a classical Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
Yeah, you have to say it's like the classical type.
Yeah, that you can find, because like, in case you don't know, the most common type of EDS is not diagnosable through blood tests.
Yeah.
So I was very freaking lucky that I had the rarer type that was available in blood tests. And if I didn't, I would still be like lost in the system of doctors that are ignorant about it and like couldn't diagnose me.
You know, when we're done, we should take a picture of you in front of this and just mail it to him and say, "What now, bitch?"
Love that.
Wow. So I, at the opposite end of the spectrum, so my disease is like normal. They all know about it. Everybody's been talking about it for 30 years. They know exactly how to diagnose it. And the first warning signs for it are like, just you bleed on the inside a bunch. And when you bleed on the inside of your body, and then like you're like, I bled a lot out of my butt. The doctors are like, well, I think there's something wrong with you.
I need to bring that up to my doctor. Again, my body's just like, everything's wrong with it. So
Yeah.
what can I say?
Yeah. So like it can be a bunch of different things, and like one of the things is colon cancer. So they like take it really seriously, and they give you an immediate colonoscopy, and then they can, once they're in there, they do a biopsy. If you don't have colon cancer, they're like, oh good, well we'll do a biopsy of this area that's bleeding, and then they have a lab test that is well defined, and they know, and then like they're like, you have ulcerative colitis now, and I was like, no, I read about that one, I don't want it.
Give me a new one, please.
And so I think it's important to recognize that like even if the world isn't telling you that you don't have this disease, you can tell yourself you don't have the disease, and you're wrong, like you're lying to yourself. And over again, I've been living with this for 15, 20 years, and I always have these moments where I'm like, I don't think I actually have ulcerative colitis. I'm gonna stop taking my medicine. And then 2 days later, I'm like, I have ulcerative colitis. been confirmed for me. Or like I'll eat a poppy seed muffin, and I'm like, I'm fine. I'll just, somebody gave me I'm not gonna throw this poppy seed muffin away. And I'll eat the poppy seed muffin. This is a trigger food for me, and it's just like, I have ulcerative colitis. The test has been done.
Is it the muffin or the poppy?
It's the poppy. It's the seed.
The seed of the
Physical
poppy.
seeds. I can't eat sesame seeds, which is great because they put them on everything even though they do nothing. It's just like waste. It's just like for.
You're like, this is just cruel to me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's just repellent.
You want your bagel to taste a little more
keeping Hank away.
cardboard-like?
Yeah, and it's for grip. I don't think it does.
Yeah, I still am like, I just went and got an echocardiogram, and I was like, oh yeah, they're gonna like notice that my heart is like totally fine, and that means that I don't have EDS. Can't wait for that result. And then it came back with the result, and I have 2 valve prolapses, which is like normal for EDS. And I was like, oh, what's the next test that's gonna prove that I don't have EDS? Can't wait for that one. Brain, like
Yeah.
I have EDS, calm down.
So a weird thing that I'm going through now, so I'm on my 3rd medicine, and the way that they measure, I take an injectable, and they measure your inflammation, and the measurement of my inflammation is down. Like the first time I went in, it was at 10 inflammation points. I don't know out of what. 10 points for Gryffindor. But then after the medicine, I was down to 0.1, which is better. But I was still in pain, and I am currently still in pain every single day. And so it's this thing where my medicine is working. I think it's stopping the bone from growing more bone. But I am hurting. And so what I don't know what to do is like, what is the cause of it? Does it mean my medicine's not working? Am I too stressed out right now? Am I not eating well enough? Am I not exercising enough? Am I overexerting myself? Or is this medicine actually not the one? And then I have this constant anxiety and fear that once I leave a medicine, there's like a month grace period for those where you can go back to it. But then if you're gone too long, your body develops antibodies and you can't go back. And there's like, 20-something, 30-something medicines possible that I could take, and they're gonna keep making more. But I do fear like, what if this is the best one, and everything else is going to be worse than this? And that's been a big cause of anxiety, and I'm in the middle of it right now. After this summer, I'm gonna have to be at that point of, do I roll the dice and try something new? Because the number 2 was way worse. So that's my problem right now.
Yeah, what a fun experience of gambling with your entire experience.
It's like craps, but for feeling awful.
Your literal everyday life.
Yeah.
Well, let's just play a game here. Yeah, so like, I want to talk especially like in the online space, but I think just kind of in general, there's this concept of like the grind, right? And working hard and not stopping and glorifying exhaustion, and which, is hard on even like an able-bodied person. But, how do you prioritize your health when the life of a creator, you guys are all, you guys work really hard, all of you. Like, how do you prioritize your health when your lives don't really allow for that all the time?
Like a roller coaster. I go from like, no, you're allowed to rest for 3 days after Vidcon, and then I'm like, hate myself for resting after Vidcon. But I don't know. You have to constantly try to rid yourself of your internal egoism, try to be nice to yourself. Like, I think like, would I say this to someone I care about? So why am I saying it to myself? The answer is no, obviously.
It's hard. It's really hard is the answer. Because for me, it's not even about ableism. It's just more that being creative is the only thing I've ever liked to do. From when I was a kid, it's what got me out of depression. It's what my whole life has been about. And so I built my online presence on 18-hour days. I was staying up till 2 a.m. editing, and I loved it. It was like it was my hobby, which is very unhealthy, and I've been working on that. But now, I want to that's all I really ever want to do, and to have to tell myself, no, I can't, is saddening. But it's hard to, it's weird. I am a year into launching a company, and this year has actually been the best I've ever been at work-life balance, which sounds like that should not be possible, but it was really important for me this year to surround myself with employees and people that can help me do my best creative work. And with that is telling my cohorts like, hey, I'm gonna not come in until noon today because I got to go to physical therapy and stretch. And it's actually really funny. I have a list of dietary restrictions because I have certain trigger foods, and my staff is more rigid with it than I am. Anytime we're working with anyone else, like, he must avoid corn. He cannot touch dairy. If he blinks at gluten, he will die. And I'm like, I'm gluten light. I can have a bite of a muffin. We filmed a video, and it was like a pizza making video with Rhett and Link. And because of my dietary restrictions, they got us a cheeseless, gluten-free pizza, and we were just decorating it. It totally ruined the video. I'm like, okay, maybe next time we can clarify what goes in my mouth versus what my hands touch.
I think it's about like trying to respect your future and say like what I'm doing today. Like the reason we're working hard is that we want like to create a career for ourselves, but we also want to like create happiness and like respect that future person that's also going to have to share this body, and also a deteriorated version of it, because I don't know if you know about time, but it marches on. And so like it's helped me to have a wife that cares a lot about it and like is like, this is dumb, you're being dumb, and also now having a kid is like, oh, I have to not die. Like I have to make sure I don't get colon cancer, and like that's a serious thing that I have to be really, really aware of and like paying attention to. And also like if I have to get my colon removed, that's just gonna make like being a dad much harder. So like just like now I have like a person that I need to do this for who's not me. It makes me take it more seriously. So just have a baby. Just bring a child into the world.
That works for everybody.
Oh, I want a wife.
You can't have her.
My relationship with it is still like ongoing and growing. With like trying to navigate like pushing myself to work and finding the time to like heal, recover, rest, whatever word you want to use for it. And I think part of that comes from like my health status is kind of constant, right? So there's this little voice in my head that goes, you can rest, but you can't rest until you feel better, because you're not going to feel better. Because if you just did that, then you would never get back up. So I have to kind of mathematically be like, I'm allowed to rest for like 4 hours or whatever time I allot myself, and then push myself to continue. There is no rest, feel better option. Because it's just always going to feel bad. It's just always going to be painful, and it's always going to be exhausting. So I'm a person that could also, like, I don't have a wife that can help me with anything.
Taking application.
Yeah. And like, so I'm a person that would greatly benefit from like a caretaker or an assistant, because I'm a person that I kind of run my household in my condition. Like I have to like get my little sister ready for school, and I have to take out the dog, and I have to like cook for myself, and I have to do all these things. And it's hard to like figure out a schedule in my head. It's hard to predict anything, because what typically happens, like I'll do that. I'll wake up early, get my sister dressed, I make her breakfast, I send her off to school. I get my wheelchair to walk my dog. I do like a 40-minute walk in the heat, and I trigger my POTS symptoms. And then I take maybe a break, but probably not, because I have to eat or I get sicker. So then I have to cook myself food. By the time that I cook myself the food and eat it, I'm like, I'm done for the entire day. I do not have any more energy to go on. But if my energy is allotted to just those obligations, then I will never do anything else. And that's because I have to do everything by myself. And eventually, like I said, like I have to try and get up and do the work and to write or create videos. And so I'm still trying to navigate that. I don't have like, I wish I had an answer to be like, this is how you can do that. I have to choose to take care of my body weird fear of like, okay, I have a little bit of energy. What am I going to do with that? Am I going to tidy up my room, or am I finally going to get that video done? And I have to choose, because once I do one or the other, I can't do anything else. So it's really tough, and also why, like, while maybe this is kind of helpful, I'm very forgiving with myself about how much less content I'm producing now at this point in my life than I was before. There's a point where I was making a video every day. Now, like, maybe it's like once a month, once every 2 months, once every 3 months. It's terrifying, but it's where I'm at in my life right now. And so I just, like, at that point, you kind of have to try and, like, be forgiving of yourself and be kind to yourself and realize that that's where you're at, and it's okay, because everyone's going to go through these journeys in different ways.
Totally. And like to kind of rip off that and kind of go back to what Zach was saying, obviously creating it's not just like a job, it's like something that you care deeply about. Yeah, I know, like personally it just destroys me to have to choose between like everyday mundane responsibilities and doing the thing I love. Are there ways that you have kind of, that one, your illness has like impact your creative process, but also kind of like affects the things that you take on or how you do stuff? Are there kind of like tips and hacks that you've learned throughout that process? I know for me, like when I make my videos, I like sit on the floor because I'm like, the less I have to stand up, the better. So are there kind of ways that you have been able to work around that so that you could keep doing the things that you love? I know like a YouTuber that I love, Jessica, she like sometimes films videos laying on the ground and she's just like, I can't sit up, but here we go. So are there kind of ways that you still have found that you can create through kind of like, disability hacks?
Well, I feel like a nice, so I actually weirdly I have employee who has Crohn's, which is like ulcerative colitis but worse, because of like your whole digestive system from esophagus down, whereas mine's just large intestine.
Yours is pretty nothing.
Right, I don't think I'm doing up here.
Stop minimizing yourself, Hank.
And have had, like I've had several employees with autoimmune diseases, and it's like, it's really, like, one, it's really, I had a really kind of wild experience. I hired a person, and she, like, the next day was like, I couldn't tell you this while you were hiring me because I didn't want it to affect this, but I have Crohn's disease. And I was like, dope, I know exactly, like, that's fine. Like, if you got a sympathetic ear in any boss, it's this one. I also, woo! But like, and so like having a boss that knows and that gets it is really valuable, but it's being your own boss can be a huge help. And I think that a lot of people with disabilities end up trying to live that freelance life because, for example, me, when I'm having a flare, like the hours of like 6 in the morning to noon are the ones that are most likely to be not workable. And that's just like, that's the individual case for one individual person with one individual disease. But like, that means that like, I cannot schedule stuff for that time. And if I'm feeling okay, I can do stuff, but like, everyone knows that I'm not gonna, and he's like, Hank doesn't come into the office until noon, And it's like, well,
you don't want me here.
Yeah, let me tell you what I did this morning. Yeah, and that, like, just saying, like, it's okay for that to be the case, and also, like actually designing my life around the way that my body works is okay, and that's like, it's not like, maybe not what I would choose, but it, I will also wish that I could fly, but like I can't do that, and I said I can't fly with my giant beautiful wings that I don't have, and I can't stop pooping before 12.
At least you know.
Yeah. And like, if everybody pooped until noon, it would be normal. Like, no one would think that was weird, and that's just what we do. But, so that's how I think of it.
I think that, I always say that like YouTube changed my life / saved my life. Because when I first got sick, I was sleeping for 20 hours a day. And so the other 4 that I had were like, okay, I'm shoving things down my, trying to eat as much food as I can. And then I have like 30 minutes to film a video. But now I'm like sleeping less, thankfully, So when I first wake up in the morning, which is usually like 2 or 3 p.m., my symptoms are the worst. So the absolute worst. My brain is not working. I can't really form sentences. I'm like slurring, like I'm using wrong words, and like my pain is like at the all-time high. So imagine me calling in late, being like, "Hey, I'm not going to show up till 6 p.m. to my day job." Sorry. But yeah, so with YouTube, I'm able to make videos at 4 a.m. It's the best. I'm like, okay, my brain is the most active, my body is working the best the longer I have been awake. And I think that the majority of people, I would assume, that's the opposite for them. And so, yeah, I think there's so many ways to become your own boss. The way that I found was YouTube, and I don't know. Oh, I was gonna say, I got a job offer in the middle of my YouTube career, and it was like at a convention, like a technology convention, CES, and I had a meeting, and this guy offered me a job at his Android firmware company, and he was like, well, what would it take for you to come and work for me? And I was like, health insurance. And he was like, why don't you tell me the salary? I was like, I literally don't give a shit. You can pay me nothing. You give me health insurance, we're good. And so I moved to Florida from New Orleans where I lived, and I was like, waiting for the health insurance to kick in. I was like, I can't wait to actually go to a doctor because I can only go to emergency rooms. And I grew up severely in severe poverty, so I never even felt entitled to go to a doctor in the first place, which is a whole other thing. I don't know. And so having health insurance was like, I'm fucking rich. When I have health insurance, I'm gonna be so good. I can go to the doctor whenever I want, and then maybe they'll be like, oh yeah, you are allergic to mold, which is what I thought was
Okay, but same. I've done that. I've definitely had that thought before.
And then 6 months into working at this company, I was like, where's the health insurance though? And this is before Obamacare was passed. And he was like, well, you're the only woman that works here. And I was like, I've noticed. And he's like, we're not allowed to discriminate as an employer, so we basically have to charge all of you the same amount. But the health insurance company can discriminate, and they're charging us $1,600 a month for you and only $120 a month for the men. So since we only have 7 or 8 employees, that makes the health insurance ridiculously expensive, so I don't think we're going to do it. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
What's his name?
So I quit my job, burned all my business suits, bought a one-way ticket to LA to be a YouTuber.
I love your origin story.
So the question was kind of ways we make creating accessible.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of little things here and there that I always want to assume is something that most people would come to find on their own, and some people don't. So a big thing that's helpful for me that I didn't used to do, but now I kind of have to do for every single video is script my videos. Thankfully I write the way I speak. I just talk essentially and have it transcribed with Google Voice, so you don't even have to type, you don't even have to use the physical labor of typing. And then kind of edit it so that it's spelled correctly, grammatically correct, and it just kind of has a good structure to it. Because what happens is also a big element of EDS is also that chronic fatigue and a tendency to have cognitive failures, where you get brain fog and it's very hard to make coherent sentences. So for me, it's good to have the words that I've already said kind of sloppily put together in a more structured way, and then use that to film. I also cut time by having a mic that's attached to the camera, and if in situations where find your most comfortable spot. Even if it is lying down, I get very self-conscious about needing to lie down. If I need to lie down, I'm just not going to film. But I have done it a couple times because I right? That's like overhead of the bed. And then like stuff like, and the mundane stuff, like just like having a stool if you need it. Like when I'm cooking, I can't stand up for long periods when the stove is inaccessible to me as a wheelchair user because it's too tall. So I literally have a stool that's permanently placed by the stove and just cook like while sitting down the whole time. So like little, I think people are gonna find, depending on their individual needs, little pieces that help here and there in order to do the things that you have to do.
It's interesting because we're up here, talking to you as experts, but what I hope is clear is that even as advocates, we're still figuring it out, and I'm guessing that doesn't stop. There's really, it's a continual process, and so I'm still in it. I am trying to be better. I'm trying to learn the power of the words I can't, and using that as something I'm not ashamed to say, something I'm proud to say, and letting the people around me adjust as necessary, and knowing that that's not going to all of a sudden make my creative work or my other work garbage. It's just now a new creative problem we have to solve. So that's where I'm at.
Don't have a whole lot more time, but a question that is really important to me that I think might be helpful. What is something that you would tell yourself pre-diagnosis that maybe could help some people in the audience who are literally just starting that journey or might be confused that you feel like you should have heard? Yeah.
Growing pains are not supposed to hurt that fucking much.
Growing pains are not real. Not freaking real. I don't know. Best advice was this one: threaten your doctors if they mistreat you. Don't
Bring a knife to your doctor's office.
Don't bring a knife to your doctor's office.
Let me know when you're gonna give me that paperwork.
Yeah. Tell them. Okay, so I've requested this from you. You denied me it. I need you to put it on the record that that's what you did. And they get very intimidated by that because literally you could sue them for what's that lovely word that I'm forgetting right now? Malpractice.
I would also say if your friends don't understand, kick them out, then you can move on to make a new cool friend.
I'm guessing anyone in this room, I hope that maybe some of you are at a point where you don't know, but for me, what I wish I could have told myself is, like, you've always known, and the more you try and suppress it, the worse you're just punishing your future self. Like, I was going to chiropractor in elementary school. Like, I knew, it was there, and we all knew, and I tried to ignore it, and that is the worst thing you can do. So, listen to yourself, and take care of yourself.
Yeah. I got a very specific piece of advice.
Love it.
It's only applicable to me. Don't switch medications right before you are going to go interview the president.
That's very niche.
Unless it's the current president.
I hope
Okay,
it's
go for it.
Which is that if you are in a situation where you are being neglected by your doctors and you are waiting for them to tell you it's okay to use a cane or a wheelchair or anything, I would say if you're stuck in your bed and that's if your options are bed, isolation, just try and find a way to get one. Do the GoFundMe, or canes are $14 at drugstores usually. Try to figure out the best way for you to move through the world and make it happen for yourself. You don't have to wait for a doctor, because if I had done that, I would probably have been stuck in bed for 5 years. I was already stuck in bed for 1 year because I was spending that time raising the money for a wheelchair. But I was in isolation in bed because I couldn't leave my house without help. And if the options are isolation, making yourself, affecting your survive in the wilderness. There's so many of us that are doing it and that have done it. So I would love to like encourage you to find the ways that will help you, even if the doctor doesn't believe you.
Can I add one quick thing too? Is
Prioritize yourself and your health, but also don't forget to prioritize your happiness and your fun. And just because something is different, something is, you have an illness, it doesn't mean that you're now doomed to a life of self-care and sorrow. It's really important to find the things that make you happy and configure your life where those are a constant and active part, or else what's the fucking point, right?
I have
So much advice.
So one of my medications makes me sleepy, and it makes my hangovers real bad, which is nice because then I don't drink anymore, and it turns out that's not that big of a deal for me.
Also quit drinking, way
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. But I never really know if I'm sleepy because of my medication, or because I'm sleepy, or because I'm lazy, or because I'm sad. And I would say, former me, you're not gonna know what's going on with you all the time, and it's gonna be mysterious, and it's okay to not know. Your body is a mystery, and you're gonna do what's necessary, and if you're sad if you're sleepy because you're sad, sad is also a thing, and you can be that too. And also don't stop taking your medication. I would say that over and over again to him because he's really bad at that.
I would also say too, don't compare yourself to your able-bodied friends. Don't think that just because they can eat Taco Bell for 4 days straight that you can and you'll be fine. It's not true. Yeah, to
You can do that, I say the other freaks.
Yeah, or even to other people with chronic illness. Everybody's different, so just remember that your experience is super valid in itself, and you don't have to look at other people and think that you have to be that.
Well, the question was, what would you say to your undiagnosed self? Which is funny because I was on this panel last year and I was undiagnosed.
Yes.
Well, a similar one to this. And I think I've gone to Vidcon for how many years? 5 or 6 years. And I've just walked the whole time. And I've just been wrecked, and I've been in bed for a month afterwards, literally not able to leave bed. And this year, I needed a diagnosis as an excuse to get a fucking scooter for the first time. So I think what I would tell myself last year is get a fucking scooter. It's not giving up to use mobility devices. It gives you freedom.
Totally. All right, well, that's our time. Thank you guys so much for coming. I did see that there are some questions in the hashtag, and they're pretty good, so I'm going to be peeking at them. So,
Not too late. You can still tweet at us.